Court indicated an inclination to find the program unconstitutional, or that there's because it became ruthless in terms of volume of work. The ruthlessness can be tempered by allowing flexibility in terms of what necessary conditions. The condition should not be ruthless. Some sort of living step and other benefits like training were provided by relying on existing natural circuits. The American Court various organizations place volunteers and legitimate service opportunities concerned should be easy to avoid. And framing. National service includes military or civilian service. Universal National Service Act of 13. National service means a military or civilian service in a government program or the community-based agency. And abstract questioning fails. Debate should center on concrete alternatives. Brian to 12. The academic false plated abstraction, very good critiques, very poor and realistic alternatives. Phase 1, ultra radical critique. Phase 2, question mark, phase the revolution. We see mixed phase 1. People need to be here and understand. Few accessible ways only an academic PhD in critical theory to understand. We never make concrete as so intellectual way of theory. Speaking of old systems to ignore the horde of the degenerated, not proposing ways to horde of intoxicate with the critique of disease and safety. We will do anything with the critique. Everyone knows something is wrong with others are proposing alternatives. And we should use the state as a heuristic. Only a prior understanding of government can allow us to understand the tools that the government uses. It's not 1814. Options of resistance to government are limited to rejection is found instead in continuous circles that are within the government rationalities and transform this question of simplification of the complex political rationalities and nurture skepticism by identifying universally good or bad actors or practices that demand continuous attention to what happens instead of what ought to be such ethics would constantly attempt to twist power playing with whatever cards are available and required sets reflexivity and the consequence of political choice. My position leads not to apathy but hyper-pessimistic activism. And neoliberalism has invaded education, preventing critical thinking and political engagement. Rule 1. Administrators feel pressure by high-stakes sensitive regimens, testing and ensure that teachers are reduced to mere technicians and students be treated as customers in the marketplace rather than as critical learners. Number of organization exclusive in-depth thinking. The beginning approach of pedagogy cancels the most important aspect of critical education, critical thinking making of knowledge relevant to students' lives. And neoliberalism has uniquely invaded the debate space. One, the high entry cost of tournaments and increasing barrier to joining debate make sure that theory debate is only possible by elite high schools, excluding those who without financial resources. And two, the proliferation of theory debate makes debate uniquely inaccessible. Theory is purely debate construct, not grounded in literature outside of the debates means it can only be taught in schools coaches well versed by the circuit or expensive summer kids. 3, neoliberalism's one at all cost mentalities invaded debate becomes a place to exclusively pursue self-interest, putting trophies and tournaments instead of learning how to do arguments and improving critical thinking. And the judge is an educator, promoting critical education is best is immediately applicable because it shapes how we orient ourselves to power structures. The role of the judge is to be a public intellectual and combating neoliberalism. Zhou 2. The importance of educators to encourage students to connect knowledge and criticism is preconditioned to become an agent of social change. The role of the teacher, the public intellectual to question and interrogate the representative with a consistent critical awareness. Education operates as a sectoral crucial in modern power. The power in the modern world, positioning education to public intellectuals has begun developing new academic agenda, particularly when neoliberal values have guided educational quality. Public education may be the last site in which young people can engage in formal thinking, learning about the limits of personal values and challenging neoliberalism. Neoliberalism requires investigating the values and identity that power structures impose. Zhou 3. With neoliberalism emphasis and competition, every sphere of life promotes a winner take all. Thus, fair to settle place and decided to dominate by winners and losers. The heart of any politics wishing to challenge the authoritative politics which points to constructive political identities, values, and social relations. Politics can exist without people investing something themselves into discourse images and particular identities, values, and social relations. Dudes need to be able to see themselves within progressive critiques of the existing forms of domination. And harms. The influence of neoliberalism is uniquely high right now. The election of Trump proves a trend of the market invading politics. Paragraph 16. Trump's looking for evidence of Trump and neoliberal thinking. Trump is already using the U.S. as a government to promote its own business into Trump's contract with the American voters plan to discuss the policies and programs which are considered neoliberal thinking. And the effects of neoliberalism have even influenced volunteering, making individuals see social service as a chance to build their resume, still stay within their comfort zone. 17 to 15. Cross-national study, the group motivation group, solid group study, student volunteers found that the students in the countries with neoliberal changes in the U.S. are more likely to give their time in order to build their resume. Elite schools cultivate volunteering habits, but their students encourage the gay legal volunteering networks and engagement of young people are encouraged to maximize self-interest and self-advancement, ground for altruism and good behavior become obscured. And neoliberalism destroys any solidarity able to challenge and place the whole blame individual and justifies oppression against all levels of society except the rich. Zhou 4. Neoliberalism attempts to undermine all forms of solidarity capable of challenging different values, promoting the virtues of unbridled individuals with economic governance and thrives on social limits. There is critical thought, historical analysis, and understanding of broader systemic relations. Social problems are reduced to individual flaws. Many Americans are preoccupied less with the outrage of economic political system than they are with the challenges of being surviving at the bottom of the savage liberal order. This makes it simple for neoliberalism to convince people to remain attached to set of ideologies to be alone because responsible for the problems of good firm. We can no longer conceive of how larger forces can control our lives. Yet the harsh practices of social order visible, increasing incarceration of young people, modeling public tools after prisons, state violence waged against peaceful student processes, policies protecting in the spirit of revenge of the poor, the elderly, and the marginalized by race and class and solvency. National service in America increases civic engagement and political participation. Villanagate et al. 12. America participants more likely to participate in community events and activities in the Georgia civic organization that is supported issues they care about. Civic engagement in America, the group is more likely to orient towards community associations. Core members have become highly committed citizens 8 years later have reported the highest level of voting, volunteering, and engagement in civic organizations. Opportunities the American National Service addressable community issues were instrumental in strengthening civic commitments. Opportunity to work with decisions for different social practices and see issues some might be key to the social institution they get both civic engagement young adults. And programs like Teach for America empirically decrease the neoliberal mindset and create closer communities. Moment 17. Individuals in different walks of life have your opportunity to have genuine encounters with one another. And national service will teach for America and bring people together, take hold of the shared identity of the community, the motivated to see hard work is key to achieving their privileged citizens. And national service addressing issues in equality and poverty can have powerful bridging effects. Teach for America is national service that integrates progressives in the low-income community to achieve participation for likely to be to justify the low-income American to participation for likely to believe that it's systemic and just contributes to income-based education to achieving gaps. There's increased sense that people are because of unfair societies, but leads to lack of willpower and the development of community consciousness of structural inequalities and engagement in the political system developed through national service is critical and challenging neoliberalism. Nicola Cockey 12. Education, the ideological apparatus of the education, the citizen under neoliberalism. This person has become passive citizen who accepts the neoliberal agenda. In order to achieve autonomous society, autonomous collectivities is required a democratic ethos needs to be cultivated. What is needed then is cultivating a democratic ethos of student and creating a condition for citizens to struggle for just more communitarian values to be developed, to perform more tasks as a citizen, to access one's faculty for the sake of a community that ensures that educating the actual critical citizen to participate in the politics considered by critical pedagogy and essential means for the emancipation of society. Democracy is impossible without a passion for the freedom of each and all. Conscientization focuses on achieving and depth understanding for allowing for perception and exposure of social and political contradictions.
Okay,
I stand open for process.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Does the AF solve neoliberalism?
The AF challenges it and attempts to solve it, yes.
Attempts to solve it? Okay,
Yep.
so like, do you have any solvency? Do you solve any of it?
Yep, that's Nicola Cockey in 12. The indications of Nicola Cockey in 12 is that cultivating a sort of democratic ethos and communitarian values, along with a site for like critical education, is explicitly important when combating neoliberal values. The Flanagan et al. In 12 evidence and the Moe in 17 evidence indicate that both of those things are done by national service.
Is a consequence of the AF that you resolve neoliberalism?
Effectively, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and that's like the only impact under the AF is just resulting neoliberalism.
That's what the AF plan does, and what I'll derive from the plan.
How, like, if just because like a program like Teach for America has like done maybe like a good thing for one individual, why would this like why does this necessarily mean that it is a good program? It literally talks about individuals from different walks of life have fewer opportunities.
The entire point of, Moe in 17 specifically indicates that Teach for America, by sending teachers into underprivileged communities and making them teach and all that kind of stuff, what they do is they expose people who would not normally be exposed to these things to, people who have been mistreated by the system, whose hard work has not gotten them to the point where they have a privileged position. That is what the entire point of that is. It is cultivating that.
Do you allow exemptions for anybody?
The AF doesn't, I don't specify exemptions or anything.
But do you allow them?
Well, the Powell's in 13 evidence indicates that there's some flexibility. I don't exactly know what you mean by exemptions.
Could somebody conscientiously object to serving?
Well, conscientious objection is in the context of the military.
Okay,
this is just,
sure.
You have to do community service.
Okay.
This is civilian services, not military.
So, if I'm disabled, could I be like, I cannot be deployed by AmeriCorps?
Well, if someone was physically not able to do a specific set of work, they would be redirected to something that they were capable of doing.
All right.
If I can't,
you read this definition of national service.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this? Why do you provide any reasons why this definition is the best definition specifically in the context of debate?
Not as of the 1AC, but it's
Okay.
I can argue that in the 1AR.
All right, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to send it out. The order is one-off case. Let me know when you get it.
Just got it.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Interpretation. National service is specific to service in the armed forces. Collins Dictionary noted. National service is service in the armed forces. Young people have to do by law. Violation. You defend civilian service. Armed forces are defined as military.com noted. The Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, and Navy. And the net benefits. First, let me say allow lifestyle any community service or public corporate benefits program. The CNSC and Peace Corps are diverse organizations with a complex system of subdivision and branches around the nation. The one the African claim any advantage to any number of them. Limits are best for education. A. Order of conduct. Mastery debaters learn best from successive strategic iterations of argument, production, presentation, review, engaging in debates on the same core issues. Challenges students to innovate and adopt their arguments based on feedback from opponents and judges. And B. Prep. Nuance research requires to say someone in a large case results in shallow debates and pushes argumentations to range to broad theses that disagree with everything. This prevents rigorous argument. As anyone can see on a Wikipedia article, but the process of clashes is unique to debate. Second, ground core active generics with conscientious objectors and see the spending DA don't apply to an outpass like trivial like community service. Community service is relatively unidirectional, so severely reduces negative. Keeping the topic on military is necessary for stable negative propaganda. Ground is vital to produce fair debates and ensures both sides have defensible ideas forward and education to voters. So reason why schools want to debate. Procedural fairness of voters, key to mitigating substantive inequalities. Use competing interpretations. 1. Reasonability is arbitrary, which invites judgment on random and justified thresholds. 2. Competing interpretations introduce future abuse by creating consistent norms that debaters can be held to in the future. And drop the data. 1. Dropping the arguments equivalence. 7. Allows them to shoot to a different position than 1 error. 2. 7 minutes. 1 is Jeffins. And 2. Drop the error collapses. Drop the data on TP. Say there's nothing to vote for. And all. Preempt your argument. Your definition. Legal precision is not a floor on your definition needs some amount of credibility. That doesn't mean we should evaluate. That doesn't mean we should evaluate T debates based on whose definition comes from a more refutable source. After you've introduced a definition from a credible author, debates should be about whose interpretation allows better debates. This means that just because they've provided some sort of legal definition doesn't mean that you should prefer their counter term. Case. Winning the impact church just proves the role of Bala and proves that Neoliberalism is good. And impact church framing. All humans are entitled to their own exception to the life of respect for equality. Persons commits to system of negative rights wherein it is impossible to impose one's will coercively upon another. 3 to 5 gender modified. What makes us moral human beings are these are individual capacities of value. Individuals are all equally valuable in this way. The good of the others worth no more than mine because she's not more than I am. Therefore, mutual right, mutual non-interference. Nobody can interfere with another person to help her achieve her own good if the other person is not chosen voluntarily to unless they can be. Forced national service is inconsistent with many people's view of the good life. Free resource 13. A one-size fits all mandate inevitably does harm in the society's diverse. Think of how important that year of youth is to athletics. If you're a couple with religious obligations, desire to have a big family, volunteering burden in your 20s matters. All people fulfill obligations beyond themselves in our public, helping to support their single mother, working to so a significant other can afford school is proper to compel those people to reallocate their time. And negative rights provide a theoretical and practical framework for resisting racism. History proves McElroy 15. Libertarianism to discourage racism. England was more tolerant than France. Key reason was free commerce. Self-interest provided a strong incentive for to ignore the other skin color. Only when a person has jurisdiction over something can she deal with others with legal democracy, free speech, and religious tolerance, peace among nations are consequences of private property. Racism has been institutionalized by states throughout history. The state acted to cement racism to society, save us with the slaughter of Native Indians, even apparently race-neutral measures implemented in such a manner as to harm blacks disproportionately. Religious wars, genocide, forced violence, pull back the curtain on any racism in the state will be seen on just like Neolib. There is no Neolib is sustainable. There's no impact on the environment. May 2012. The component set of species that undergone transformation due to human influences, whatever biological conditions have the same life, also sustain changes. This is a serious blow to the civilization. Biodiversity was essential to sustaining life from that point onward. And sustainability impacts our bad science and technology solves the impact. Really 14. We burst limits again, and young people create opportunities by making their habitats more productive. Ecologists think in terms of static limits. Can't seem to see when we'll start to run out. Petroleum is discovered economic growth. Technological potential result in low carbon energy that will allow warming to level off before it does harm the planet. Control 13.4 billion people. The limits to growth argued we run short of various metals, fuels, minerals, and space. Why did not have a technology better mining techniques more frequent? Use material substitution of cheaper material. And turn neoliberalism solves disease, reduces pollution, and increases living standards. IRIS 04. Free allows workers, especially in other countries, produce at a higher quality and lower cost. Specialization allows the U.S. to be more innovative. Innovation provides new tech allows Americans to cure diseases, pollute less, and generate better paying jobs. And stands living in a peaceful society, keeping America free of protectionism, fosters economic growth. And free trade leads to competition and innovation, key to societal progress, like the one the app discusses. IRIS 04. Innovation is the progress and the challenge of others producing similar products motivates businesses to innovate in a competitive environment. New tech, computers, medicine, machinery have helped the economy become more productive for labor and in the production productivity is fostered econ growth by lowering costs and has given Americans the opportunity to raise their standards of living. In the 80s, computers were expensive, few and they handled a few calculations due to increasing competition. By 2002, 65.9% owned a computer that handled graphics, media, internet access, and other functions. Goods flowing cross borders foster new ideas and U.S. producers to learn about the market through the success of traded products. Consumers benefit because in an attempt to capture a greater share of the market, offer the best products at the lowest possible prices. U.S. citizens currently pay a higher price for products than they would if there were no protections. Removing protections would encourage productive business to find new tech or compete to shift to a more competitive industry and turn free trade benefits Americans and impoverished people around the world. Founding 2000. Free trade policies have created competition and engenders innovation, better paying jobs with new markets and increased investment. Free trade is despite the value and the role of fostering economic development in poor countries since 1990. U.S. economic growth has grown 23%, adding 2.1 trillion to the GDP and raising the wealth of the average consumer by 5,000. The economy responded well to the expansion of trade and works have increased 115% of full-time jobs increased 13.4%. The inability of defined full-time jobs is less than 3%. The unemployment rate 1/10 of a point. Total employment increased by 2 million. The benefits have been shared by the citizens of developing countries. Per capita consumption in the U.S. tripled as in other countries. Higher education, improved health services, effective environmental programs, and other economic gains. Barriers to trade increase the cost of goods for consumers and harm in developing countries who rely on trade for their incomes. Congress should take every opportunity to expand international trade. The tangible benefits to help American families and impoverished people around the world. And free trade creates millions of higher-paying jobs in the U.S. and developing countries. Funding 2K. U.S. exports over 12 million jobs in trade and trade-related jobs, 16% higher wages trading has not resulted in loss in manufacturing jobs. 14 million new jobs have been reported. NAFTA has knowledge of loss in wages for manufacturing workers. The average real wage rose, saving one American job declining. One job in America is declining. Textile industry costs taxpayers 100,000 each year. Such lower paying jobs to marginal workers have moved to better paying jobs. The growth in the U.S. economy benefits poor countries who have access to U.S. market where demand and remuneration are higher than at home. Impoverished people gain better wages, acquire more goods, and raise sustainable living. The advantage for more countries that pay off is immediate foreign investment will domestic industries development and provide better employment. And globalization guarantees poverty reduction and also reduces modern medicine, which is contributed to higher life expectancy, and it also spreads modern medicine, which is contributed to higher life expectancy and lower infant mortality rates. Griswold 2K. Globalization offers hope to the poorest. Periods of economic growth are always accompanied by reduction in poverty. Poverty fell 77 in the 88 periods of reductions occurred in nations that had liberalization. In East Asia, people living in absolute poverty declined from 432 to 67 million. Globally, the number has declined. 1.2 billion. Globalization facilitates modern medicine. Life expectancy in developing countries rose to 65. Infant mortality rates has fallen 10%. Regions where poverty and the most physical follow the policies and free trade costs fosters economic growth and development. Democratic institutions. Taiwan and Hong Kong is key, stabilizing China and alleviating poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. Froning 2K. Heritage analysis of 161 countries and free trade foster economic freedom and poor people benefit more than the wealthy in the late 60s. Taipei shows the market flourish. The result has been astounding economic growth. Taiwan is safe and 11th freest economy with economic freedom came. A democratic institution. China such an outcome will be enhanced regional stability, increase prosperity, and open China's market to America's economic freedom will compel to enforce rule of law, establishing free market policies essential for market stability and countries with rule of law. Foreign investors are more confident to take risks in their communities. One of the reasons Taiwan and Hong Kong have flourished. It is reasonable to wonder how economic freedom can apply to poor countries. Sub-Saharan Africa poverty is not the result of insufficient foreign aid, rather lack of economic freedom and corruption. Only when the regimes increase the free market can these people prosper. Anything short will continue to be economically unwise and inhumane. I didn't read anything after Griswold 2000.
Griswold? So none of the...
after Froning 2000.
Froning? Okay. So that means no key to peace, no service learning?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oops. All right. Ready? Cool. So the only argument you have in the role of the ballot is that if you win the impact turns, that proves the role of the ballot is bad. Why?
Pretty self-explanatory. The role of the ballot is reject neoliberalism, but if we prove that neoliberalism is really good, you probably shouldn't reject it.
Okay, good for what purpose?
I mean, I can go through. Okay, so first
So
of all,
all of you
neoliberalism
seem to be
is
very
incredibly
like
sustainable.
util-esque reasons as to why
I
neolib
would
is good.
completely disagree. We have arguments about why neoliberalism like reduces pollution, solves disease, and increases living standards for
so
poor people
very
in developing
util-esque
countries.
reasons as
It
to
leads
why
to
it's
competition
good.
and innovation, which is key to social progress, which is not necessarily utilitarian. It also benefits Americans and
Cool.
impoverished people,
So
which might.
Did you have any responses to the actual justifications for why the role of the judge as a public intellectual is bad within the 1NC?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Did you have any responses to the role of the judge as a public intellectual within the 1NC?
Sure. We can see that the judge should it should be an educator, but if we win that neoliberalism is good, this clearly means that rejecting neoliberalism is not educational.
Why? That seems to ignore the fundamental claims made in the role of the ballot about why neoliberalism affects education.
Okay. So I'm not sure what you're unclear on. If we win that neoliberalism is good and it is something we should be promoting, then we definitely also win that you shouldn't reject neoliberalism. You can make arguments as to why we've ignored like this one, I don't know what you're referring to, like this one specificity about why neoliberalism is bad, but that still will not fundamentally respond to the fact that like you said in cross-ex, we solve neoliberalism, and that's really bad because neoliberalism is really good, which means that the judge should probably just reject an act that would prevent neoliberalism.
What does the neg conceive of neoliberalism as meaning?
Well, okay. I'm not sure what you mean, but neoliberalism
what do you believe,
is
in the
a
context
system.
of the 1NC,
Sure.
what does
Neoliberalism is like, but there are sort of two parts of neoliberalism, but they're very intertwined. They are one, free trade, but there's also a sort of a philosophy of like individualism within neoliberalism, and this is key to promoting free trade. So this is
so individualism is the only way we have free trade.
No, the philosophy of neoliberal individualism, which is what you criticize, is key to the economic theory of neoliberalism, which is free trade. We talk about why this. You want me to read the cards?
Yes, please. Which card is this?
Sure. Hold on, let me just go. Free trade leads to competition and innovation, key to societal progress like the one Aft discusses. IRSO 4. Innovation is the basis of progress, and competition is the best incentive to innovate. The challenge of having others producing similar products or offering similar services motivates businesses to find new technologies and better ways to provide what they produce. The need to remain competitive forces businesses.
Free trade and innovation are what you're talking about?
I mean, I've sort of explained why the philosophy of individualism is key to the competition that is free trade.
Okay.
So, like, you can't... Also, I would say that your evidence definitely does not aggregate between the two. But we also impact turn your framing of individualism by saying that that is actually key to not allowing the state to abuse us in the ways that you identify. That's our Fried 05, Friedersdorf, and McElroy evidence.
That's 330 used. I won't be reading anything new.
Oh, what's the order?
The order will be Topicality, in case.
Okay.
All right. Is anybody not ready?
Yeah, hold on. Okay.
Everyone good? All right, you good? Okay. So starting on T case.
On topicality, calendar interpretation, they affirmatively defend either military or civilian service. They send the United States National Service Act and through routine evidence from the top of the framing contention of the 1AC. This is specifically a definition literally from the United States government, which is actor specific and its legal precision. Now, the standards. 1, legal precision education. This is key to education and policy making skills and advocacy skills because we have to look towards the legal, because when we look to policy making skills and advocacy skills, the unique impacts to education in the entirety of the debate, those come from the ability to advocate a specific plan. Advocating within the context of the government is super important in this instance because this is the context of the United States National Service Act, which is perhaps the best topic argument in the entire topic. Semantic interpretations are super important on this because semantics is the only argument that has that creates some sort of stable status point for engagement, which controls all their internal links, which is the internal link to all their education offenses. Insofar as they don't have a predictable stable status point for engagement or clash, that means that they don't get any of their engagement offense. It also means they don't get any of the offense under education because the entire point of education comes from engagement. So, second, breadth over depth. The breadth of education that we provide from having national service and the breadth of education that we provide from having national service debates on community service as well is important in the context of education because having varied debates about different parts of a similar structure are super important in the context of topic education and are important in the context of debating multiple points of advocacy. They lead to stale debates because we want to talk about one specific part of the military. Third, actor specificity. This impacts back to the semantic argument because this is specific to the United States government. It's literally from the United States National Service Act. It's the most accurate, legally precise definition that you can possibly read on the entire topic. For that reason, it links back to the stable status point for engagement argument, which is the internal link to all their education arguments because they don't have a stable status point for engagement. They fundamentally lose any sense of predictability. Now, on their own interpretation. On their first standard about limits, first of all, they just don't limit the topic. You can literally be a graphic designer in the military or drive a van. None of these things are specific to these things. You can't conscientiously object to things like that because in the military there are several subdivisions of jobs. They talk about how CNSC and Peace Corps and reverse organizations. That fails to account for the fact that the military literally allows you to be a videographer and not have to do anything with combat. This, first of all, doesn't allow them any of their ground. And second of all, they're on their limits arguments best for education. They say iterative content mastery but turn. This leads to stale debates and there's only so much you can do with the military topic. There's only so much you can do from successive strategic iterations of the same gosh darn AF. They can list you no real examples of what you can claim advantage areas on military. There are only a few. Their arguments also are literally just an argument that they want to justify util. Next, their second one is about prep and nuanced research. Requires a stasis point. This is turned by the fact that they don't have a precise definition. Their argument is about what is better for debate, but what's better for debate is having a precise stasis point, which comes from semantic interpretations. Mine is best because it's a legal precise definition and it's actor specific. Those are independent reasons. Next, their ground argument on limits, their ground standard. This is incredibly circular. You can't define an interpretation of a topic from a preconceived interpretation of what ground you should have concerning the topic. That's incredibly circular. Second, their core negative generics, the content of projectors and spending disad aren't solved by the limits arguments. That was on the limit standard. They talk about things that are relatively unobjectional. No, you could clearly object. You literally had arguments as to why service learning is bad. Next, state ground is vital to produce fair debates and ensures both sides have very valuable and defensible ideals to go forward. However, this literally is just a circular interpretation of the resolution. They say this is our interpretation of what ground we should get and what's a generic, and that's why this resolution should be this way. It's incredibly circular. Now, on competing interpretations, one, we defer to reasonability. Reasonability is they say reasonability is arbitrary, but competing interpretations has a race to the top and it makes frivolous theory the entire margin of the debate. That is a reason why reasonability is best. On drop the debater, I concede. On RVIs, the advocates RVIs one, this allows me to check back against abuse, and second, it's more fair. They have made this the entire point of the NC. That was their only case position. Now, on case, their arguments on the role of the ballot. Here's a couple serious problems. The point of the role of the ballot was not impact justified on the affirmative. The role of the ballot was specific to the judge's educational role as an educator. They've conceded Zhou 1 and Zhou 2 evidence. They've conceded all the independent reasons as to why neoliberalism is evaded debate and undermines education itself. Pedagogically valuable debates is the only thing which really matters in this context. Their arguments are all util arguments about free trade. We have no normative framework to justify why any of those are good, and they have conceded the fact that this is pedagogically valuable to reject neoliberalism, even if it's utilitarianly good. Your pedagogical obligations are more important and the only source of normative import in the round.
I have 5 minutes. Why isn't our definition stable? Just because it's not from
It's
legal
not
source?
Precise whatsoever. It's from military.com and Collins Dictionary.
Okay. Why does that mean it's not precise? It seems like you're indicting our sources. It seems pretty precise. It's like the armed forces.
Precise as in semantically accurate is what I mean. I don't mean precise as in specific.
Why isn't it semantically accurate?
Because, well, my argument is just that my definition is much more semantically accurate.
But there's not a reason ours isn't semantically accurate.
There's a reason why mine is more. It's an offensive
Why
interpretation.
is yours more?
Well, those are the the first and third standards I talk about. One, legal precision, and third, actor specificity.
Okay. The order is T. Yeah, the order is like an overview on T, and then line by line, and then like the paradigm issues, and then F. Is everybody ready? Extend the interpretation. National service is specific to service in the armed forces, and the armed forces are defined as the military. You can extend iterative content mastery. You've considered the debate is learn best from successive strategic iterations of argument production, presentation, review, engaging in debates about the same core issues is the key to challenging students to innovate and adapt their arguments based on feedback from opponents and judges. This turns all of your only offense on our shell is that we lead to stale debates, but this proves that stale debates are still better than random debates. On your counter interpretation, we preempt this, and you don't respond to the preemption. Legal precision is a floor, not a ceiling. Your definition is some amount of credibility, but that doesn't mean you should evaluate debates based on whose definition comes from a more reputable source after you introduce a definition from more credible author. The debate should be about whose interpretation allows better debates. Your only offense is as to why your definition is better, but you don't provide any reason why it's key to having good debates. We all of our offense is about why our definition is key to having better debates, and which means you should still prefer your definition, but also our definition is more common, which means that the topic lit is more grounded. And Oxford Dictionary defines national service as a period of compulsory service in the armed forces, and Cambridge Dictionary defines national service as a system in some countries by which young people, especially men, are ordered by law to spend a period of time in the armed forces. And the Oxford Dictionary defines armed forces as the country's military forces, especially its army, navy, and air force. This means that our definition is more common, so it's more grounded in the topic lit. Just because all of your arguments about why government specificity is good don't matter, because we are all obviously specific to the government, to all nationals. So all of the topic lit and all of the definitions are specific in terms of national service are specific to the government, because national service is service to the nation, which is run by the government, which means that this is not an argument on T. And on Clash, there's not only one African conscript, different types of personnel. You can have a fail off militarism after African conscripts under one of 5 branches. There is still a lot of African, but it is limited enough that we can have many debates. On the same prep. Your arguments about why nobody can conscientiously object to like being a videographer in the army don't apply, because many religions and many people do conscientiously object just to being a part of the institution of the army, which proves that this is it is objectionable. Also, stale debates are still better than random debates. In stale debates, we can at least fine tune argumentation. Based on feedback. Debates that are completely unpredictable, we gain nothing at all. We have a bad debate that we'll never have again, because after one of the 300 possible apps under their entropy, you've conceded that you allow an extreme amount of apps. And here's a case list of at least 10 new research areas that add to the topic. These apps are distinct and have a complex system of subdivisions and branches. Anglo 7. One created baby one every time an American born. The Fed would invest to make national service a cabinet level department in America, learn and serve America is an independent agency, bringing it up to cabinet level. 3. Expand AmeriCorps national senior volunteer corps programs, to managing after school programs, cleaning and playgrounds, and caring for the elderly. AmeriCorps cash for different programs. 4. Create an education corps created to who help school issues. 5. Institute summer service for teenagers with volunteer organizations like the city year and citizen schools. 6. Build a health corps. Volunteers would assist low-income families in accessing public insurance. 7. Launch a green corps. This would be a combination of civilians, conservation corps, and a group that would combat climate change. 8. Recruit rapid response corps. Volunteers respond to disasters. 9. Start a national service academy. Picture West Point, but students will learn to transform a failing public school. 10. Create a baby boomer education bond. Experience corps is the largest AmeriCorps program for people over 55. Members receive scholarships used by the volunteers' grandchildren. And on your argument about how we also allow independent apps, this definitely isn't true. There are 5 branches of the military. This means we allow this means if you're right and all of our apps are just based on branches of the military, we allow 5 apps. I literally just listed 10 new apps that you allow. AmeriCorps is a catch-all. And on RVIs, do not grant the app RVIs 1 logic. A. Infinite regrets RVS instead and necessitate RVS out of in such a model of abilities impossibly to adjudicate and kills resolvably be denies the NCC, improving your fair education doesn't provide proactive reason for me down for challenging the theoretical legitimacy of your position in the first place. And C. Fairness and education are prior you should win for being fair education. That model of debate will grant auto wins to the majority of positions. And logically sign constraint on all theory statements, and illogical argument does not give reason to establish this conclusion, even if established premises are 2 and 2 kills Roman. 8. Shall debaters would be held to initiate theory against legitimate abuse of their source. They will lose to RVI and B. Incentivizes abuse. RVIs encourage debaters to root abuse strategies, be theories so they can win on the RVI. This push the initiator of serious disadvantage because the person reading the abusive position can himself for only a single argument. C. RVIs where you conceding the counter-interpreted around if I realize it to be better than the original interpretation. Normally turns all theoretical offense, even if you win your counter-interpreted, will never be internalized by the data community absent. Norms effect and skip the education. And on counter interpretations, and on reasonability. No, you should prefer competing interpretations. You can see the reasonability devolve. You can see the reasonability just collapses to competing interpretations anyway. You can also see that because you still need to read a counter interpreter to prove that you were being reasonable. You also can see that competing interpretations to future ways of use by creating consistent norms that can be held to in the future. You also can see the reasonability is arbitrary, which invite judge intervention, which is way worse than debates where people are just trying to be good at theory. On the AF, Wow, you've conceded every single turn to neoliberalism on the left. Your only response is that the role of the ballot is specific to judges' roles as educator. Neoliberalism after the debate. However, you should hold them to what they say in cross except the app solves all of neoliberalism. This means that they are literally taking a massive they are disadvantaging the world massively because neoliberalism is sustainable, it's key to better life, and it's key to developing nations. They've literally conceded this is true, but also they concede that the impact trends are a frame in which all humans are entitled to their own conception of the good life. So it's the respect for equality, persistence, system of negative rights where it is impossible to oppose ones will coercively upon another which still impact trends their within round framing, but also you can see that we saw that neoliberalism solves poverty, which means that the reasons that you provided as to why neoliberalism is bad in debate are literally like people that are economically disadvantaged cannot participate in it. However, insofar as you can see that neoliberalism will eventually solve poverty, this means that neoliberalism is probably key to combating these advantages. It's probably key to combating these disadvantages in the debate space. Also, you don't provide. Also, these are literally just reasons that. You say that you saw. Also, these are just reasons why neoliberalism in debate, not reasons why it is bad, and not reasons that the app not reasons that the app changes. Don't let the app shift their advocacy. They literally don't get any offense from this in the AC, so they shouldn't get any offense from it in the 1AR or 2AR. This is just they are just using this as they can use this as proof that neoliberalism is in debate, but they cannot use this as they cannot turn this and use it as offense. And also, if you can see that, and also insofar as you can see that neoliberalism is key to putting people on an equal playing field, this means that it probably offers a lot of benefits for debaters.
Sorry, crap. The order will be case and then theory.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Case theory. Okay. Is anybody not ready? Okay. On case, extend the role of the judges as public intellectual. Their arguments, none of them have normative import of any kind. They try to read impact trends. None of them have a normative framework to link back to. The literal only framework which has been read is not impact justified. It is based on the pedagogical claims. They argue that just because neoliberalism has been in debate doesn't mean that it has made debate worse. No, that was the Zhou 1 and 2 evidence, which were conceded, indicating that debate makes debate valueless. It makes pedagogy and education valueless in itself. The only normative obligation which has any import of any kind on the round is the obligation of the judges and educator to reject neoliberalism. This has been conceded. The AF conceded. I solve 100% of neolib. Now, this means I'm the only one with substantive offense. Now, time for theory. Extend the counter-interpretation that the AF may defend their military or civilian service there. Extend the first standard of legal precision. They say that this is only about this is key to education, but advocacy skills, particularly portable skills from debate. Their argument is that we should only talk about which is from a more repeatable source. The argument is that the legal precision allows it to be a more predictable topic starting point. They also talk about how the fact that there are 4 dictionaries makes it better. That doesn't make any sense. This doesn't talk about any of my advantages. Also, their argument on active specificity is that it's specific to the topic. Let's say they still solve. No. The argument is that this is most specific to what is possible to be predictably used in the context of national service, especially in the United States. This is specific to the United States National Service Act, the most predictable on the topic. The reason this is important is because they've conceded that the stable stasis point for engagement is the internal link to all their arguments and the internal link to all their educational offense, especially considering their B point of limits about proper nuance research from a stable stasis point for engagement. That means that it fundamentally turns all that argument. The iterative content mastery. Actually, I'll get to that on their shell. Extend the breadth of reject argument about various structures about debate is better for portable skills and education as a whole. So now time for their interpretation.
On limits, there are a couple things fundamentally wrong. They advocate for two contradictory arguments. First, they say that there are only 5 branches of the military and that's all they allow. But then they also say that there are fill-off different people, many religions and institutions, there are fill-offs, different people, many different ways that you can specify within the military. These are contradictory arguments. They allow a ridiculous number of asks because the fact that you can literally be a graphic designer or a videographer. Their argument about many religions are objecting is an impact to their ground standard, which they really have not had a solid defense of. Also, if they truly allow 5 asks, they link super hard into the stale debate argument, and their argument is that stale debates are still better than random debates. However, this is definitely not true. That would justify having one topic for the entirety of Lincoln Douglas forever, because we would have the same debate over and over again rather than opposed to varied debates. Their argument just doesn't make sense in the context that stale debates reduce education and make make debates pedagogically bankrupt because we just debate the exact same things about their exact same 5 asks. This is super over-limiting. Over-limiting is worse than under-limiting. And if you don't buy that they actually allow for 5 asks because they said they didn't, they do not limit the topic and they don't solve for anything. Their argument from Stengel is that I allow at least 10 new research areas. However, most of these aren't even about national service in the context of the AF because they're bonds. Now, RBIs. They seem to agree that RBIs necessitate versus RBIs. This doesn't make sense. That just means that you vote for the original interpretation. It doesn't necessitate versus RBIs. They say it denies the instituted and fairness in education or operating burdens. No, this is about being the fairest and the best for the round. They say logic is a side constraint on all theory standards. No, it's about what is best for debate. Logic has no conception of that. They say kills norming and kills theory. However, structural norming, you should vote for the debater who creates the better norm. If I created the better norm, that makes sense. All their arguments about chilling theory, which means that checking abuse is a super important link to all of their offense.
Thank you for judging.
was a close debate, I voted negative. I don't think the AF is particularly far behind on any one of the layers, but I think the negative is just barely ahead on either topicality or the case flow. So starting on case, like, I think it's probably at least somewhat true that, like, most of the AF impacts are sort of about, like, are sort of impact justified, but I also don't understand, like, why a lot of your neoliberalism bad stuff is not also impact justified, because it's just, like, it makes debate, like, less pedagogically valuable, and, like, but that's valuable because, and if, like, your argument is, as the 2NR correctly points out, a lot about access in debate being sort of the, like, being the problem that you're sort of indicting, then I don't understand why the negative arguments about neoliberalism solving poverty at least are at least somewhat relevant in my consideration, even if they ought not be the most high, like, priority in my consideration. And so if that's the case, and I think neoliberalism solves poverty, and, like, eventually that translates into, like, making debate better because more access and stuff, then I'm inclined to think that that is a reason to negate. I think this debate is very, very close. I don't know exactly which way I go. I spent a lot of time sort of thinking about this. For starters, I don't think you win the RVI. I think, like, the 2 and 3 points underneath the norming arguments are just conceded.
Yep.
But I don't think, I think that you could potentially be winning this debate, and here's the reason why. I don't think you extend the ground offense very well in the 2NR, and I think this is the argument that you really need, because if the 2NR is, or the 2AR is like, you justify tiny AFs as well, because you could just be a videographer in the military, which is an argument I hadn't heard before, it was kind of interesting. And I don't think this is a particularly true argument, and the reason I don't think it's true is because, like, you could do that, but my point is about sort of ground, which is, if you read the military videographer's app, I still get the same things that you listed in the 1NC shell as responses to it, and that checks that back, because you can read, like, nuanced advantages, and that solves a lot of your sort of clash and, like, staleness bad claims. But the negative still has some skin in the game and can take these core generics that are limited enough to, like, apply them to the affirmative in an interesting, nuanced way, which gets that sort of iterative content mastery stuff that you're talking about. But because you don't have, like, a strong extension of the ground argument, I don't know how to sort of evaluate this. But at the same time, I don't think that the AF is particularly well responding to sort of this impact turn to staleness, which is, like, there's just sort of this floating, you're better for portable impacts or portable skills stuff. But I think the neg's doing a pretty good job of warranting why, like, I should be very skeptical about allowing too many affirmatives, because there's no ability to sort of have contestable debates in those instances, which means you don't even get access to sort of portable skills you talked about in the first place. And that sort of staleness is actually better for, like, portable impacts, because it forces you to refine the same position over and over and develop second and third level types arguments as judges and debaters give you increased feedback. And so, like, at the end of this debate, I was like, I really don't know exactly which way I was going, which is why I just, like, looked at the case and made the decision there. But I think it's, like, if you just have, like, a stronger impact to staleness bad and directly compare that to their sort of iterative content mastery argument, then I think you have this debate because the 2NR didn't extend the ground argument, and you have, I think, good defense to their limits arguments via the sort of you justify a bunch of small apps arguments. That was how I thought about this debate. Okay, yeah, that was basically it. Any questions about anything? Okay, cool, this is a good debate.